I think right now would be a perfect time to share that this podcast is officially sponsored. And this week's episode is brought to you by Juliana Barbati Consulting. Juliana is an expert in podcast SEO. She's worked with so many different podcasts and helped shows grow, helped shows get more eyes, helped shows get more ears, helped shows, get more followers. And I am honored to be working with her and have her team backing the podcast. So I'm very excited that they are the first advertiser to join the Round 2 podcast, first of many. So thank you, Juliana. And if you are looking for any sort of services to help your podcast grow, feel free to reach out to her. Her contact information is in the show notes. All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and I have joining me today another one of my Techstars friends, David Akinyemi. Welcome to the show.
No, I love it. Thanks, Nikki, for having me. Super excited to be here and super excited about what you've been building and all the guests you've had on here. I'm excited that I'm here. So Let's get it started.
Thank you. Well, as you know, we have been talking about having you on for quite some time. So what is super exciting to me, as I've chatted on here many times, is how much I just love all of my Techstars friends, all the people that I met through the program. And the coolest thing is that we've had so many businesses that have pivoted, that are trying new things based on everything that we learned through the program. And so David's business is one of those. But the reason that we are talking today is because he realizes that his customer base needs to get to know him a little bit better. And that is the perfect conversation to have on this podcast. So David, first and foremost, tell me where you're from.
Yeah, definitely. And so from the East Coast, initially from New Jersey, a small little town, New Jersey called Irvington, right next to Newark. Did a good part of my life there, but then also moved over to Northern Virginia. And so DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And then went to school in college in Maine. And so I'm just kind of all along the East Coast.
Yeah.
Definitely East Coast boy until now. I'm out here in San Francisco.
Okay. So how did you get from Maine college to San Francisco?
That's the $1 million question. And so I went to school, a small school called Bates College, to play basketball. And so I went there to play basketball, and it was an amazing experience. And I knew I kind of wanted to be in the tech space, but my school didn't have any engineering programs.
Okay.
And so when I was in college, I was kind of faced with the decision of like, okay, do I go try to find another school that has an engineering program and give up basketball? Or do I just stay here and try to figure something out? And I was like, I love basketball. I love my coach. I love my team. And so I was like, let me study physics and math. I've always been a science-based person. And so I was like, hey, I can figure out the rest. And so I studied physics and math and kind of taught myself how to code on the side.
Oh, cool.
And just through that experience, I kind of saw, okay, what technology, what innovation and things like that look like. And eventually it led to me being able to land a job out here in San Francisco, which is the tech mecca of the world.
Okay, cool. So what was that adjustment like going from East Coast to West Coast? Because they're pretty different.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I loved was the opportunities that I was exposed to. I think where I was in Maine was a very small, remote college campus. Like I played basketball, so I knew everyone on campus. Everyone knew me on campus, which was cool. But it also has its downsides where if you're doing something crazy on the weekends, everyone's going to know about it. But when I moved up to San Francisco, it was so cool that I kind of had a fresh start in the same way I felt when I went to college and left Virginia. But also everyone out here was doing innovative things. Like every conversation was cutting edge. Every conversation was very intellectually stimulating. And so it was a good fresh of like wind of fresh air kind of thing.
Okay, that's cool. Now, out of curiosity, because I'm not sure how big the town was that you were born and raised in, but I lived in San Francisco after living in LA. And what was funny to me is that in LA, because there was so much traffic, I was used to, leaving like an hour before I needed to be somewhere because you never knew if you were going to get stuck in a traffic jam. And then I moved to San Francisco. And while San Francisco is one of the, major world cities, it still is a very small city from a mileage and radius perspective. And so I would say I had a meeting at a brokerage office at 9:30 in the morning. I would leave my apartment at like 9, and then I would find myself pulling up at like 9:08. And I was like, wow. I'm here.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Now, crazy enough, this is my hot take. I feel like San Francisco, though small city, the public transportation doesn't really get you where you're trying
Oh,
to go. I
uh-huh.
feel like I'm in New York often. I'm like, oh, subway can get you everywhere, but San
Right.
Francisco, it's either Uber everywhere or you need a car.
Yeah. That's a bummer, especially with parking fees and I mean, I knock on
Break-ins,
wood. Oh, break-ins, right?
yeah.
Jeez. I mean, that's just crazy. I know last time I was there, I actually feel like the parking karma like was working in my favor because I have gotten so many parking tickets in San Francisco over the course of the last 20 years. I've had my car towed in San Francisco when I swear I was in between the lines. And then this time I got there and the little screen on the parking meter, it was like broken. So I was
Oh,
like, it was raining and I was like, okay, I'm just going to park here and hope for the best. And I came out, my car was still there. It wasn't broken into and no ticket. I was like, yes.
no, the Holy Trinity. No, it's perfect.
I know, totally, totally. Oh my gosh. All right. So let's talk about your journey into entrepreneurship. What made you decide you wanted to be a founder?
I think I've always been interested in kind of like running businesses, but also mostly just solving problems that either I felt myself or that I've seen around me. So when I was in high school, it was like, okay, we didn't have a lot of money for me to be like spending on luxurious things. So the question was, okay, how can I make money to like get the sneakers I wanted, get the clothes I wanted? And I became this crazy sneaker reseller where I was able to make tons of money, flip tons of sneakers, flip tons of clothes, and it kind of funded my interest in fashion and media and culture. And then when I got to college, like I said, I taught myself how to code. I was lucky enough to get an internship at a national lab here in Berkeley, so Lawrence National Berkeley Lab. And realized with that, I was like, hey, I don't really love being a software engineer, but I love the innovation that happens with technology. And so went
Mm-hmm.
back to school and actually me and a couple of friends, we started a food delivery platform, all because we were just tired of being in the cold of Maine winter and having to
Uh-huh.
walk to go pick up food. And so we built like almost like a Uber Eats, but for
Yeah.
college students. It was called Easy
Okay.
Eats,
Oh,
student
cool.
run, student lend.
Uh-huh.
We ended up hitting around like 35,000 monthly recurring revenue, so it was cool.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
remember someone being like, "Hey, it sounds like you're kind of this like entrepreneur, product manager," and I was like, "This is interesting." And so I never
Mm-hmm.
really thought much of it as like entrepreneurship, more just like being challenged in different ways, solving cool problems, doing things that like I loved. And then when I got to industry, I worked at Atlassian. I feel like I realized that's what I really do love is like being challenged in different ways, always being able to work on different products. And that's why I
Okay.
really love product management. But I always had that bug of like, I need to go back to like the grit, the grime of like doing it myself, really being
Yeah.
close with like a group of friends, doing things that no one believes in, but you know, we see the opportunity, we see the vision. And I think that's kind of what's been the common thread of everything.
Okay, this is so cool. So let's go back to high school. So because my brother is like a huge sneakerhead, so I am very familiar with way more sneakers than I ever anticipated. So how did you get the money to start buying and then flipping?
So crazy enough, the first thing is that I didn't have the money. And I remember to this day, is one of my teammates, his name is Ben, he gave me a pair of his old pair of penny fives. It were these blue
Okay.
sneakers. And that was kind of what started this. Like I had this new, okay, I have this value prop. These are hot. These are cool.
Uh-huh.
I can sell these, make some cash, buy some new ones, sell these, make some cash. And so that was the first pair. It was like, it was a gift. It was, and I'm grateful because it started this lifelong commitment to
Yeah.
wasting money on sneakers. But no, but it was awesome. I think now I have like maybe over like 50, 60 pairs of shoes,
Uh-huh.
but I'm wearing Crocs all the time, which is the reality of most sneakerheads. But
Yeah.
no,
No,
I
that's
think it was
so
cool.
funny. Wait, so where were you flipping them on? Because what year was this that you were doing this? Was eBay in existence, Craigslist,
No, this was high
Instagram?
school. So this was back in the days where you'd have to know people in school who are also sneaker resellers, or this
Okay.
was like Facebook groups, and so they'd be like these
Oh, okay.
sneakerhead groups, and you'd like message with people like, "Hey, I'm selling these shoes," or they'd be like, "Hey, I'm selling these." Now I think about it, crazy unsafe, so like reckless. But you'd meet some stranger in like a
Yeah.
parking lot or like a Chipotle or like a Starbucks, and
Uh-huh.
they'd give you the money, you'd give them the sneakers,
Oh my
and
God,
rinse repeat kind of
amazing.
thing.
Yeah. So now was this a all cash business?
100% all cash.
Okay.
So we'll see. Hopefully taxes don't hit me too bad, but
That's so cool though. I love that because it's so funny. I think as I told you, like when I'm kind of like in between my different adventures around the world, I'll stay with my brother. And so often I'm working from home when I'm there and there'll be a delivery and I can always tell it's a shoebox. And so then I'll be like, well, what is it? And he's like, oh, these are the blah, 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 like Jordans or Kyrie's or this or that. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, are these ones that you're going to actually wear or are they going to go in your shoe closet? And he's like, oh no, I'll never wear these. I'm like, cool. Got it.
It sounds like he's an OG in the game. He knows the system.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He definitely does. Like it's so funny because like you were saying you like live in Crocs, like he lives in Vans. And I'm like, you have all these shoes.
Exactly. It's
That's
hilarious.
cool. Okay, wait. So now tell me about your next venture that I'm sorry, but 35K a month in like MRR is nothing to sneeze at. So how did Uber Eats exist at the time and was it just not like doable or were you guys so remote in where your location was that you had to create something on your own?
Yeah, and so this was around 2018, 2019. And so Uber
Okay.
Eats definitely existed. I would assume so, but it wasn't really accessible. Like we were in a small town in Maine, maybe had around two or three fast food chains, and most of the restaurants were like these small family-owned businesses. And so it was kind of this unique thing where there wasn't really anyone servicing this population as well as there weren't a lot of people who were like Uber drivers. And so one thing that we kind of did that was unique was that we were able to hire a lot of student drivers because one, they wanted to make money that they could simply just blow on the weekends on like alcohol and partying and stuff. But two, we had these personal relationships with these restaurants as being like the college students of, hey, we're building this thing that we want to help you make more money, drive more traffic to your business, as well as being there to kind of like sit through that language barrier that also exists a couple of the times where, hey, you kind of really do need to understand what they're saying, what they're trying to get accomplished when they may not be native English speakers. And so it was good. It was great. Things actually took off for us during COVID.
Oh yeah,
And
I bet.
it's because a lot of college campuses, my college campus, but we also expanded to nine other ones. What happened during that time was a lot of dining halls shut down. And so students kind of had to do these like grab and go like situations. And then a lot of people also would kind of get like, I guess at my school, we called it like lockdown. If you got contact traced or you were like in contact with, you needed somehow to get your food and you couldn't leave your dorm. And so business went really, really high during COVID because everyone needed these delivery services. And so we signed a lot of partnerships with colleges. But the end of the business really was when COVID was released and everyone was like, we don't want delivery services. We want to go out and like go eat our friends and go see things. And so it was a roller coaster. It was fun. It was cool. I think I learned a lot about really like customer discovery, user experience, sales, negotiations, and that was really my first kind of like sense of like, okay, this is what a startup feels like. This is what making money the right way, like in an organized structure, really looks like and feels like.
That is so cool. I love that you guys just did that and made that work. So, did you have to increase your driver base during COVID because you had so much more demand?
Yes. The other thing is, but we had a really good core group of like people who I guess I'm employees you'd call them, and then sometimes we'd have to do a lot of the work ourselves as well. And so I'd be there packing food sometimes, helping the restaurants. I'd be there like driving the food, delivering it myself. The toughest part was trying to get people to work on like a Saturday night where they're like, hey, can I work the Monday and Tuesday shift so I can get Saturday off? And so a lot of the times we'd be working those like weekends where people are partying. That's where we'd get a lot of the orders. And so it was cool. Definitely taught me a lot about the food industry, taught me a lot about building companies. And I honestly think that was a big component of why I was able to become a PM at Atlassian.
Okay. So now, does entrepreneurship run in your family, or where did this like initial curiosity come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say entrepreneurship runs in the family, but I would say this, I guess the feeling of like pushing boundaries and fighting against adversity definitely comes from my mother. So my mother, I think, has done everything and above and beyond to provide for our family. She didn't have that many support from my father. She has four kids, but to this day, like there's never been a day where the food wasn't on the table. There's never been a day where we weren't able to get to school on time. There's never been a day we didn't have dirty clothes, despite all the sacrifices she had to make. And us young kids not knowing that, hey, we don't really have any money in the bank account right now. Or, hey, she's had to go somewhere and she's crying in a parking lot because she has no help. And these are all the stories I didn't realize until I grew older. But seeing them as a young individual and the way she kind of motivated us to like, you can do whatever you want. And it doesn't have to be in the traditional sense of what she may want of a lawyer, an engineer, a doctor. But as long as you are passionate and can push through any adversity, like, I'm going to support you, I'm going to back you, and I'm going to make sure I can do whatever I can to help. And so I think not an entrepreneur, but in every sense, a go-getter in all facets of life. And I think that's really my motivation to do everything and anything is my mother.
Oh, like that is like the sweetest thing ever. Like she's gonna cry when she hears you say that. That was so sweet.
Hope not. She's like, nice.
Well, I think the way that I'm walking away from what you just said about her is that she taught you guys incredible values. She taught you a lot about character. And then she also raised you in a way that you felt like you were rich in the things that matter, right?
Of course.
And she wasn't sitting there making you feel like you were any less than. She was making you feel like she gave everything she possibly could. And look at what you're doing. Like that's such a testament.
No, definitely appreciate it.
Where do you fall in the line of 4?
So I'm the second youngest, and so I have
a
younger sister and then 2 older brothers.
Right on. And are they all off doing cool things too?
Definitely, everyone's kind of doing their own thing.
Nice.
Everyone's doing well, which is great to hear. And we're all just out there trying to make our mom proud.
Do you guys all live in different places?
Yeah, we're all scattered out. And so West Coast, East Coast, my sister's on the East Coast, brothers in Japan. And so
cool.
It's kind of all over the place.
Awesome. Well, sounds like you guys have a great family. That's wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Family's super important. So I love hearing about how people ended up how they are and kind of where that energy and spirit comes from. All right. So let's dive into what you're doing today with Face. Because when we met, isn't it crazy that it was just about like almost exactly a year ago, just like we're like, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks over that 1 year mark?
Wow.
I know, right? I was looking at like Instagram memories the other day and I was like, oh my God. I was like, that was the beginning of so much for literally every single one of us that was in that cohort because so many things have changed for everybody between then and now. So when we met, it was Techstars. So first, how did you guys get into Techstars? Like, what was your thought process in applying? Did you apply to other accelerators or was Techstars your one shot?
And so we applied to YC, just like everyone does. And we kind of had this back and forth with YC around them wanting us to change what we're building. Well, in hindsight, since we pivoted, I mean, it all kind of worked out. But we were kind of like very gung-ho on what we wanted to build and very gung-ho on like what we wanted to do. And so it didn't really work out in terms of, it wasn't really a match for us, wasn't a match for them. And then I think we've always known about Techstars, but went through that application process, which was gruesome. I think, as you know, like it was like almost a full-time MBA just to apply, let alone go through the program.
I actually, no, I don't know because Christy did all that because I connected with Christy literally 3 days before Techstars started and she invited me to come on board. So all I've heard are the stories of how each of you guys applied and how crazy and gnarly it was.
Yeah, it's a grind. But in that process, you do learn a lot about your business and you learn a lot about what an investable business is. And that I think was really, really eye-opening. But went through that, like just like you all were grateful enough to get into the program. And yeah, what we're building back then, as you know, was Tux, which was supposed to be this platform to help tech employees protect their downside of stock compensation. So kind of like insurance. If you get a stock at $100, but it goes down to 50, we want to kind of give you like an insurance plan where no matter where it drops, you can always cash out at that 100. But yeah, things changed a lot.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's the part of it. Like, right. That's the reason. I mean, I remember on the very last day asking you, because you guys had a conversation that I was curious about the outcome. And you were like, yeah, it was a great conversation, but we're going to pivot. And I was like, oh shit. Okay.
No, definitely.
But you did. And that's the point, right? And that's what's so exciting because watching the trajectory of what you guys are doing now has been so fun as just like an outsider and a friend. So how did you guys get from what you just said about investing insurance to where you are now? And tell everyone where you are now.
Yeah. And so maybe what we do today is this company called Face. Face is a platform that helps creatives get paid faster. And so we're talking models, stylists, photographers, hair and makeup artists, but all the way to influencers and content creators, really just everyone in this creative ecosystem, because the biggest problem we face is cash flow. And we started this because during that time when we were pivoting away from Tux, we were like, hey, we need to extend our revenue in some way. And it was like, we're still trying to figure out, hey, what's this new business going to be? But we can't just be wasting business expenses on things that aren't boosting the business. And so I was like, okay, I'll go back to something I've been doing the past 3 years. And I've been a model for the past 3 years. Not doing the runway, but mostly like commercial work. And so I've done New Balance, Old Navy, Gap, a lot of department store works.
So wait, how'd you get
And
into that? Because that has a subject we haven't touched yet.
yeah, okay, I guess rewind back. So when I first moved out to San Francisco, I moved during COVID, and San Francisco was this, I mean, it's cool now, but San Francisco when I moved was pretty quiet and pretty dead. And so at the time, me and my roommate were like, hey, this is supposed to be San Francisco, the cool, fun city, but there's nothing to do. So we were just like constantly go out to bars, restaurants, and try to find something fun, but it was kind of dim. And so we just eventually began just meeting people who shared the same sentiment of like, oh yes, SF's kind of dead, kind of boring. And then over time, we're just like, hey, let's just have people over at our apartment. And so we had this kind of like small little get together. A lot of people came, a lot of people had a good time, met new people. And then we're like, okay, let's do it again. But maybe this time let's have a DJ. Okay, did another again. People bring more friends. Great time again. Hey, let's do it again. But this time let's like have like more refreshments and drinks and foods like that. Did it again. It got to the point, rinse, repeat, I think we had like 1,000 people show up to my rooftop one time.
Oh, dang.
The fire department came. But through those experiences, I remember someone came to the party. It was a music artist. Her name was Awida. And she was like, hey, you kind of have a look. I'm doing a music video. Do you want to be in it? And I was like,
oh, sweet.
Sure. Like I didn't think anything of it. Gave her my contact information, went about the rest of my life. Then maybe like 2 weeks later, I get this like very official, like, hey, here's this contracted email in terms of call times. Here's where we need you to be and all the set information. I was like, oh, this is legit. Like this is not some joke. And so I did that music video and I had the best time ever. Like it was like, I got to meet a bunch of like models, a bunch of actors, a bunch of performers, a bunch of photographers. And I was like, oh, this is a really, really fun way to kind of like express myself outside of the traditional like 9 to 5 that I was doing on my day to day. And it almost kind of reminded me of the excitement I got from learning about sneakers and fashion and music. And so I was like, oh, this is awesome. And just through that, you'd kind of like, okay, you did that, you'd meet a photographer, you'd work with a photographer, that photographer reaches you to another producer or casting director. And then that kind of just rinse, repeat is what got me to where I am now, where I've done a bunch of commercials. I've been able to sign with an agency. And that's kind of what showed me the problem that we're trying to solve today with Face.
Okay. That's so cool. How fun. Like, I love that. That's exciting. I mean, it's so interesting too, because I think that like in that world, right, there are so many opportunities and, you know, depending on what the vision is, you know, you happen to be that in that girl's vision for her music video. And then it just kind of like had this domino effect on getting you introduced to more and more people and making that a part of your repertoire, right?
No, exactly. But again, I guess back to the story was when we were going through this pivoting moment, I was like, okay, I've been doing this on the side most of the time, but I was like, okay, let me take it seriously because I make good money. Like you can do a commercial, make like $6,000, $8,000 in a day kind of thing. And so I went back to doing it, but this is the first time where I was actually relying on the money. And I realized like, hey, plan was I'd make this money and I'd split it with my co-founder. Hey, co-founder George, you get half, I get half. We use this as money to kind of sustain ourselves while we figure things out. It wasn't until George was like, hey, when are you going to get paid? It's been like weeks. And I'm like, I actually have no idea. And I'm like, huh? He's like, you didn't check the email? I'm like, I don't get any emails. Like, I don't read any contracts. I just go there, do the job, and then I come back and like hope I get paid. And then the more I realized, I guess talking to like other creatives and other people on set, I realized, oh no, this is just the reality. Like I was just kind of blinded by it because I had the other job at the time. But there's people who are amazing creatives, amazing artists, super talented who are struggling with this because they just chose to do what they love for a living. And some people kind of undervalue the creative job, but remove the creative from it. It's a job. Someone signed an agreement saying, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to do a deed and I deserve to get paid for it at a timely rate. But that's not how the industry works. And so that's kind of why we built Face. And it's been great so far. The coolest part is that a lot of our customers are our friends. And so there's no better feeling than like helping your friends, but also being able to just like call them up and be like, hey, we built this feature. You want to test it out right now? And they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so It's been great. It's been, I want to say about like 4-ish months of doing it. Got a couple, I want to say a couple hundred beta testers. Got a big wait list of people now trying to get on the platform. And then we've been really good about using social media to build a community around the face, and our big kind of mnemonic is face card. And so really highlighting upcoming talent on our platform, educating people on ways to kind of break in, and then always just sharing like the funny moments that we've all experienced if you've been in this industry kind of thing.
Uh-huh. That's exciting. So tell me, because I'm super intrigued by what you guys are doing. So, but I'm curious, like, how does it work? Like, if I was a creative and I said, okay, like, I want to work with you, tell me what happens.
Definitely. So right now we're in a beta program, but how the platform is going to work long term is that as you're creative, whenever you complete a job, all you need to do is submit your invoice to the platform. And from there, we're able to pretty much advance you that and collect from your client later. And so there's been solutions like this that kind of existed. And there's a lot of things like kind of like payday loans that are pretty predatory. And we're trying to kind of flip that on its head instead of with this new solution where there's no interest and there's no debt. And so the idea is we charge like a small fee upfront. And so let's say simple, it's like $100 we charge. Instead of giving you the full thing, we'd give you a percentage of that. And then we'd collect from the client later on. And so instead of you having to like pay it back yourself or there being interest growing, we know that money's coming. So we're willing to float you and come collect it later.
Okay. So then are you like partnering with a bank? Do you have like a warehouse line that you then are able to front that money and then collect it at what if it's like net 90 or net 120, whatever their contract says?
Exactly. And so that's what we're working towards right now. And so right now
Okay.
we want to build out the software and make sure it's actually thorough and end-to-end solution is working really, really well. We don't want this to
Mm-hmm.
be more friction for creatives. We want it to be as seamless as
Right.
possible. And so
Mm-hmm.
once that's finalized, that's when we will then kind of work with banking partners to get that line of credit. But
Mm-hmm.
right now we're in this beta program, testing it out with some creatives, but also testing it out with some agencies that
Yeah.
offer this kind of like as a benefit for their talent as well.
Sure, sure. So then do you have to do some kind of like checks and balances as far as like, like to make sure that I'm submitting a real invoice that is actually work that I've done?
Exactly. And that's why we started this beta program, mostly working with agencies. And the agencies we're working with have been amazing, have been really helpful, have been really educational. But we kind of use them almost as a source of truth in the sense of, hey, instead of it being Nikki's working with Nike and now we have to fact check what Nikki said versus Nike said, the agency is this natural middle ground to be this verification layer that both can technically underwrite the client, but also underwrite the individual. And so we're doing this to kind of mitigate that risk for now. But again, the long term play is that this should be available for any creative anywhere, not just those who are signed with an agencies. We're just starting that way to work out the kinks.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it totally makes sense. And I mean, it's kind of reminds me of, I don't know what those places are called, like check cashing places, right? Where you could go and then they take a percentage and they, front you your check if you're not going to get it for another week or so. Do you feel like you have any competitors in the space right now?
Definitely. I think there's a lot of people who understand that cash flow is an issue in the creative space. And we've also been doing our due diligence while building the progress or the product by not just understanding the competitive landscape, but actually looking at the people before us. And so one of the things we've been really like passionate about and put a big emphasis on is talking to our predecessors. And then we kind of now have relationships with them where we like ask them questions whenever we have one, they give us feedback on things we're working through, and we've been kind of using them to kind of avoid the mistakes of someone who's been in this space and was doing it successfully, but only fell short because of a couple of things that we can easily change and course correct. And so we're excited about the opportunity we have because we know the future is going to this world where everyone can become this creator, but more than that, everyone can kind of like couple multiple income streams. Some people call me crazy, but I think the future of work doesn't have to be the 9 to 5 anymore, but it's almost this portfolio of different ways of making money. But no one wants to deal with like not getting paid on time. And so that's kind of the world we're trying to prepare for and build for. But we're starting where we experience a problem, which really is those creatives.
No, I think that you're absolutely right. And anybody who's telling you that you're crazy for thinking that, I think they're the ones that are crazy because, it's so funny. I mean, I have this conversation often with people like in my age range, right? Because when we got out of college, it was like you get out of college and you get your job and like that's your job. And then you go to work and you work 9 to 5 or sometimes more than that. I mean, Jesus, when I got out of college, my salary was $30,000 a year. Okay. I was living
Jeez.
in Los Angeles. I worked a minimum of 10 hours a day. Usually it was 12, sometimes it was 14, and sometimes it was half a day on Saturday. Like one paycheck didn't even cover my entire rent. And if you think about the amount of time I was spending at that job, I didn't have time to have another job. I mean, I would leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and I would get home at like, if I got home before the sunset, like in the summer, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this time? you know?
Yeah,
So it's so cool now that we're in this space where you do see people who are working still like a 9 to 5, but they have so much more flexibility. And then they're also maybe an influencer, or they're also a model, or they're also a podcast host, or they're doing other things on the side where they're maybe like hosting events, or, you know,
exactly.
they're a photographer. I mean, I love this time that we're living in because it is so cool and it's so normal to be like, oh yeah, I do this, and this.
Exactly.
And but it is crazy to me though, and here's my next question for you is, as a model, right? You throw out some big name brands that everybody has heard of and everybody knows. So why does it take so long to get paid?
Yeah, no, so it's a lot of things, but we can boil it down into kind of two big ones, which is one is when you look at these big organizations and the expenses that they have, typically the creative expense or the budget they're allocating to quote unquote advertising isn't the biggest priority for them. And so they may have other vendors, other commitments that they need to make before it gets down to the creative part, which is the model, the photographer, the production teams. And so that's this kind of like one priority issue. But two, there also is just like a culture issue where it's a lot of people undervalue creative work, like I mentioned. Like, hey, you're just a model. Hey, you're just a photographer. Hey, you just did that thing. And as a result, they're able to prioritize or deprioritize that without any consequences.
Yeah,
Crazy
but the
enough too.
irony of what you just said is that the output of the photographer, the model, etc., is what's making them all the sales.
Exactly. And that's why we're trying to make a change in this industry. Because the other thing too that most people don't know is this is an industry where you can't really speak out about these issues.
hmm
Because again, this is a relationship industry. If David's a guy that's complaining about getting paid late, it just
Mm,
means, hey, we're just not going to work with David again. And so we
hmm
don't want to build a solution that puts people at more odds with these clients and stops them from
Right.
getting works. We want something that actually works within the system and can over time cause this massive shift not only in structural change but systematic change.
hmm No, and I think that's great because I think like the happier people are to go to work, right? The better their output is. And what would be the most unfortunate, I think, would be to have a bunch of people who are the reason why your brand sells the way it does, but to have them all be disgruntled because they're not getting paid on time. And then maybe they're not giving their best output as they're continuing work. So,
Exactly, and
yeah.
it goes bigger than just creatives too. When you think about like you were kind of mentioning about like events and podcasting, but I think there's this big wave of like people my age taking on more like side hustles and like freelance roles. You can think advertising, marketing, consulting, and these are these things where they have this skill or trait that they can monetize, but they don't want to deal with the old way of working with these net 30, net 60, net 90 payments because they're not used to it. And so how can we kind of like mitigate that risk and prepare for this future where we call it multi hyphenates, where everyone's a multi hyphenate. No one is just one thing anymore. But Nikki's a entrepreneur. She's a podcaster. She's a traveler. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that you are now doing and also able to monetize and make money from.
Yeah, it is really cool. I mean, I'm even thinking like my ex-husband, he's in construction. And I mean, the amount of times that a job would be completed, and then, you know, and he's like working with homeowners, and then the homeowner would be like, oh, okay, cool, we're leaving for vacation. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and then I'll send you a check when we're back. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. No, like
Exactly.
I've paid my guys, I've bought all the materials, the job is complete. Like you need to write me a check today.
Exactly.
So it's just wild that, you know, that exists on like every level, right? From like person to person sales all the way to like massive corporations.
Definitely. Definitely. It's time to make a change.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question that I know is one of the Techstars questions, but because now you've pivoted, you haven't answered it, at least to me, for not because I'm so since I'm someone, but I haven't asked you this in some of our many conversations. So why you? Why are you the founder for this?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it starts with my love for the space. And it wasn't something that I was looking for, to be honest with you. Like I mentioned, like I was blessed with an opportunity God was like, hey, you're going to get to be in this music video and you're going to get to do these cool commercials. But through that, I really fell in love with it. Like I said, the same way I fell in love with like sneakers and music and culture, and being able to kind of like be a quote unquote, I guess, tastemaker or part of the wave of how things change. And through doing that, I've met so many cool people, so many like great friends. And I've heard so many stories of how like problems like these are like crippling this industry. And I think it's only right that I'm placed at the crazy intersection of like product management and entrepreneurship, but also being this one guy who also happened to be in this industry and have seen these problems firsthand. And so I think that's what makes me, I guess, why me. I think it's more less of a why me and more why I need to be the one to fix this. Is because of I have these skills, I have this community, I have this rare intersection. It would make no sense for me to not put that to use. But then also, I need to give some kudos to my co-founder too, who he has a background in software engineer, but also was working at Capital One as a software engineer. And so when we talked about this, it was crazy how like I had the product management and creative background, but he also had the software engineering and fintech background. And it kind of works well in the sense of me explaining things to him about the industry and him able to explain like, hey, these are solutions that exist in finance that can actually solve those issues. And so it's a weird mix. It was almost like a match made in heaven, but I think that's why we're the guys that need to be the ones to build this.
How did you and George meet?
I've known George way too long. We went to high school together, and so
Okay.
I couldn't even tell you the exact way I met George. At this point, it's like I feel like I've known George all the time, but we played basketball together. We've done everything together. We've traveled together. Now we've been building this company together. And so it's the coolest thing, that being able to work with someone you know so well, someone you consider like your best friend, not only because of like every conversation is just an exciting conversation, but we're able to cut out a lot of the fluff. Like if George does something that sucks, I don't need to sugarcoat it. I'm like, hey, George, this sucks. This is terrible. Like fix it. And I think that we have been able to use that to help us accelerate growth in a really, really good way, but also just build a culture around being able to be honest with each other. Like, hey, we're never attacking one another, but we do want what's best, not only for the company, but what's best out of the other person. This is funny, but we have this, I guess it's company value now that it's like, we say don't half-ass it. And the concept is just like, hey, if there's anything in life worth doing, like do it. Don't half-ass it. Whether it's like, hey, I need like anything, like don't half-ass it, put your full effort towards it. And that's kind of the culture we've been able to cultivate, and we want to keep going as we grow the company because we've known each other for so long and can say things like that to each other.
Yeah. And trust me, those are the best types of friendships to have, where there are nothing that's like getting in the way of being real and being honest with the other person, even if it comes to a point where maybe like the decision that ends up being made isn't one that you would specifically do. And this is more like friendship based, but like maybe there's a choice out there that you wouldn't make for yourself, and you're honest and you're like, hey, I don't think this is the best for you. Like, but if they still do it anyway, you still love them at the end of the day and you still support them and are there for them. I mean, and then in business, you got to have that level of honesty, or else you're not going to get anywhere.
Exactly. No, spot on. Spot on.
Yeah. So, okay. Tell me a little bit more about the roadmap and the future. Like, what is it that you want out of the next few months with the events, with your customer base, with how they understand the product, how they understand you?
Yeah. Damn, it's a loaded one.
I know. I did that with Art when we were on too. He was like, you just asked me 10 questions in one. I'm like, damn it.
Let me think. I guess maybe I can start maybe from a perspective of the events. So we've been doing events. We had our first one, did one in San Francisco, which was kind of a small one. We did a really, really big one in Miami. We did another one in New York for New York Fashion Week, and now we're planning one out for Los Angeles. And they've been great for us, to be honest with you. And the reason is because we really are embedding ourselves in the community that we've always been attached to. And so it's allowing us to really like provide a solution, but build community around them, making sure they're understanding that we're here to support them, whether it's a networking event, whether it's just a rage and a super fun party. They're understanding that, hey, Face is here to help this community. And so with that, we want to keep those going. Like I said, we're playing out LA, but we want to kind of bring this to ideally every city everywhere, but every major city is on the roadmap. And the idea is being able to really cultivate this community, but also provide opportunities. A lot of people have aspirations to work in this field, but don't know where to get started, don't know what to
Yeah.
do. And so that's been one of the best things about these events, where we're able to talk to people about what we're building, but also just answer their questions about like, hey, I had this experience. How do you think I should navigate it? Or I want to work in this field. How do you think I should navigate it? And being able to be that thought leader has been really, really helpful. And we know if we can keep that up and keep that going, that's what's going to grow the company, not me, not the product, but really servicing the community. And then on a
That's so
personal,
cool. I love that.
oh, no, appreciate
No, I
it.
was just saying that's so cool because it's like to give people these opportunities, like a fun opportunity, right? You're like, hey, come to this party. We're having this cool party. There's going to be a DJ, there's going to be drinks, like there's going to be good lighting, all the things. But then it's like a really cool like networking opportunity for people
Exactly.
as well. And then most importantly for you guys right now, then you're showcasing what it is that you're building and why they want to be a part of it.
Exactly. Not only that, but then we get the feedback too of like, they kind of
Mm-hmm.
tell us, oh, this is awesome. I'd love if it could work with this. Or, hey, this
Yeah.
is great. Or you guys think you're going to do this next kind of thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think having that constant feedback loop and having that community is going to be huge for our growth. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for with these events. Plus, the events are just
Hell
fun.
yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love a good party? I mean, I have never been to one of your parties, but every time you post about them, I'm like, they throw a good party.
Yeah, we need to tone it down a little bit. We're trying to make them less parties and more mixers, like you said. Like
Yo, okay.
a good,
Mixer. Got it.
exactly.
Okay. We'll call them mixers.
No, but I guess outside of the events, on the personal lens, yeah, I think it's a challenge for me. Like I mentioned to you, me even getting on here and talking is kind of like a little nerve-wracking, which is hilarious because I've been on camera, I've been in campaigns, but usually I'm never speaking. I'm just smiling or I'm reading a script. And so I'm trying to challenge myself to put myself more out there and really
Mm-hmm.
just be a voice. Like, you know what I mean? I don't, some people say, hey, David, be the face behind face, but I'm like, I think the face should actually be the community, but I should be the voice. Like I should be the one advocating. I should be the one pushing the barriers. And so, but I can't do that if people don't know I'm here. If people don't know what I'm doing. People don't know why I'm building it. And so that's one of my challenges is really to like talk more, build more community, and really be that voice from a personal level. And then from the product perspective, it really is just about iterating on it and trying to getting it out of this beta program. And so we're lucky enough to have a decent amount of agencies, a decent amount of users in the beta program, but we're still finding bugs. Things are still breaking. And honestly, this is kind of exciting for us because it means people are using it and people want to use it often. And so we're really trying to get to that position where we can get out of the beta program because we have a bunch of people on the wait list, like people
Mm-hmm.
DMing us like, hey, when can I get in? When can I get on? We just
Good
want to make
problem to
sure,
have.
yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
just want to make sure we're giving them a solution that is good, is well thought out, and kind of like misses a lot of those issues that we've been seeing in the beta program.
So, question for you, going back to what you said about, being more comfortable speaking, talking about it. Do you, at your mixers, do you ever get up on stage and kind of like welcome everyone and do all of that so people know like at least who you are?
Yeah. So
Okay, good.
yes and no. So funny
Okay.
thing at our event in Miami, I did get up. If this was a daytime mixer, and so maybe we had about
Mhm.
like 200 people show up. And so daytime mixer, I did get up there and I like spoke, and it was amazing. It was like I felt like the next Steve Jobs. Like it was awesome. Um, and people resonated with what we're doing. And then after that, I was able to really just like talk to people, meet people, learn more about what they like about the product, what they don't like. But then flip over to our event in New York. This was a New York Fashion Week party. It was a nighttime event. We had like maybe 800 people show up. Like this was a rager. Like it was like, and so I remember the DJ being like, David, hey, do you want to come up and talk? And I was like, if I stop the music right now, I'm going to be the most hated person at New York Fashion Week. And so didn't get a chance to like talk and do everything there. But what we were able to do is like contact people using, so we collected like, I think people's emails when they signed up for the
Yeah.
event. And so we're able to tell them about the product through email. A lot of people
Mhm.
signed up from that because they're like, oh no, this is exactly what I've been looking for as a creative. And so we're
Mhm.
still navigating fine in that balance of like,
Yeah.
okay, work hard, play hard is how we do it, but sometimes we gotta play a little less.
hmm No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it is a balance, and you want to make sure you're doing things at the right time, at the right pace, and all of that. But I mean, I definitely think that the more people know about you and know who you are and understand your story. And I mean, I learned so much about you for the number of times that we've talked, like so much that I didn't know. So I love this. And I think that it's going to be a really cool way for you to share different like snippets about your journey to getting here, because I can certainly sense your passion. And I think from a founder perspective, especially in a space where you're working with individuals and especially when money is involved, everybody who signs on with you guys, knowing that like you created this because this was your firsthand experience. It's not something you heard about and thought, oh, maybe I could do something there. You're like, no, I was literally not getting paid and I needed to pay my rent. So I thought, how can we make this better?
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I love that.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, cool. Well, how can everybody reach you who isn't already a part of your network?
No, definitely. I think the best way to stay active with us is on Instagram. And so we're really active on social media because that's where all the cool kids are. And so on Instagram, we're at FaceCardHQ. On TikTok, we're at FaceCardHQ. And our website is FaceCardHQ.com. And we're always active, whether it's just want to support and be engaged with like the memes, or you want to be up to date on the events we're throwing. But also if you just have questions, there's someone always there responding to DMs and messages. So anyone who wants a DM, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I loved our conversation and I love telling this story. And everybody who is listening, thank you so much for listening, watching, all the things. Please, as always, if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe to Apple Podcasts and YouTube. It does help up quite a bit with the old algorithm. And David, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week.
Of course. Thanks.
Bye.